makes you so sick at heart that you can't take part. You can't even passively take part.
Today I'm going to talk about an American tradition you probably have never heard about, and that is Loyalty Day. That's right, there is such a thing as Loyalty Day. And it's on May 1st of every year. I was not aware of this tradition until quite recently, and I found it rather odd. But then when I read about the history of this day, I realized exactly what was its purpose and why it's tied with one example of American exceptionalism, which is not celebrate May 1st as International Workers' Day, or May Day, as it's called around the world, and which is celebrated in most countries around the world. So I'm gonna show you this is the official White House proclamation of Loyalty Day. On Loyalty Day, we celebrate our allegiance to the project of this great nation and the democratic ideals woven into the fabric of our Constitution. As Americans, we do not command loyalty, but seek to earn it through our actions. This is strange. Why do you then need to proclaim a Loyalty Day officially by the government if you're not actually attempting to command loyalty? This sounds odd. Here in America, loyalty does not mean fealty to any one leader or political party, nor does it mean unthinking praise or willful ignorance of our shortcomings. It means loyalty to our common ideals and to one another. Again, this is odd. If there is no if there is no attempt at willful ignorance of our shortcomings, is a day called Loyalty Day really a day in which you would be compelled to point out the shortcomings of your national project, point out the many flaws of your economic model, of your foreign policy, etc.? Doesn't seem like this is a day that's made to self-reflect, not just on the virtues of your country, but also on its many failings. So the proclamation just makes more sort of appeals to diversity, loyalty to our armed forces, who selflessly serve in harm's way. No discussion whatsoever of whether the wars that they serve selflessly have a point, which in moments like this, when the US is finally going to withdraw from Afghanistan, I would think is a good topic of conversation on Loyalty Day or any other day. All those who have the courage to call out our nation's imperfections when we fall short. You mean like the whistleblowers who are not allowed to come back home? Yeah, do those count? May 1st is also International Workers' Day, and we honor the workers whose service and sacrifice has helped turn the tide against the COVID-19 pandemic. On this day, we show our gratitude to our essential workers. So, I'm fully support that we should, there's no amount of praise that we shouldn't heap on essential workers, people who risk their lives to make sure that those of us who aren't essential could get on with our lives and go through lockdowns with our health and our sanity intact. So that's, there's no way to not celebrate what essential workers have done. But that's not really the point of May Day. The point of May Day is to celebrate all workers in every year, not just the ones in an emergency. It is a day when we recognize the contributions that workers do to our well-being, to our livelihoods, the efforts that even non-essential workers have to do to give their families a livelihood, to pay for their homes, to pay for their health, to pay for their education. You don't have to be an essential worker every year to be celebrated in this way. And that is really what May Day is about. So I think it's a bit cheap to just tag this into the proclamation of Loyalty Day when you're not making any effort at celebrating the contribution of labor as a whole. So, yeah, there you go. This Loyalty Day, I call upon the people of the United States to join in this national observance, display the United States flag, and pledge allegiance to the republic for which it stands. So I've always criticized that the US has a tendency for visual displays of nationalism that border on the fascistic or fascistic compared to other parts of the world. Americans fly the flag outside their homes, which is odd. Most countries don't actually do this. And, flying your flag doesn't necessarily mean you're patriotic. You see flags on every public building and every non-public building as well. You just see these displays of nationalism all over. If you go to Europe, you don't see this. Even in the more sort of visibly nationalistic countries like France, you don't see the displays of nationalism as frequently as you do in the US. But there you go. So even if in a normal day it's already done in excess, it seems strange that you're calling for a day in which you do this even more than you normally do. So what's wrong about Loyalty Day? Well, its history is very turbulent. And here's an article from Smithsonian Magazine. The US declared Loyalty Day in the 1950s to erase worker protest. Under Eisenhower during the Cold War, Loyalty Day was declared to paper over International Workers' Day. Duh. That's why it's on May 1st. So here's the thing. So here's the history. It was first celebrated in 1921 as Americanization Day. It arose in response to the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution in Russia and growing radicalism in a swelling U.S. labor movement. Congress formally recognized Loyalty Day in 1958 when Cold War-era anti-communist fervor led to a hunt for suspected subversives that cost countless leftists their jobs, promoted prosecutions for political beliefs, led governments to require employees and job seekers to take loyalty oaths, and propelled inquisitions by the House Un-American Activities Committee. So there you have it. This was, again, in a case of American exceptionalism. This is a country that has such a pathological aversion to anything resembling socialism or anything really resembling workers' rights that you celebrate Labor Day on a day that really the rest of the world doesn't celebrate. Americans celebrate Labor Day on September 6th, I believe. It's definitely September. But then May Day, which the rest of the world does, even other, hyper-capitalist countries like Britain, May Day is celebrated. This is definitely a case of American exceptionalism, and it's rooted in this aversion for, in any way, appearing like you're supporting the labor movement. So there you have it. That is American exceptionalism in action. Exceptionalism that really robs workers of their ability to just have any sort of symbolic influence, because that's really what May Day is. It's symbolic. It's just because you celebrate May Day doesn't mean that you're a government or a state that cares about your workers, but at least you're making, some superficial effort at it, which that is too much for Americans. That is pushing it. You need to change the date. You need to call it something different. You need to whitewash it with something that I think in any other country. Can you imagine if Germany had Loyalty Day? Even if it was like for the most benign reasons, if Germany had Loyalty Day, what would Americans think of Germans celebrating Loyalty Day? They would probably think it's slightly fascist, slightly authoritarian. If China or Venezuela had Loyalty Day, that would also be labeled as authoritarian, dictatorial, despotic. But when Americans do it, it's fine. See the double standard. And Americans don't realize how easily they are captured by propaganda, myths of their own country's benevolence, myths about things like the American dream, when it's a country with one of the lowest levels of social mobility in the Western world. I could go on and on and on. I could probably make a 2-hour video on all the things that are exceptionally wrong about the US. But yeah, I'll just leave it at this. I hope you enjoyed your Loyalty Day. I hope any American viewers proudly put out the flag and remember that flying a flag is more important than recognizing workers' rights. Thank you for watching. If you like this video, like and subscribe. This is a new channel. I appreciate every new subscriber. And if you liked this video, there will be much more content just as good, hopefully better. Thanks.